have the account, you do a contract with them yearly saying, remember, they're a private entity. You don't have much choice.
No, but I mean, what is,
Turn the page, I think that's...
what is the agreement?
That the townspeople are gonna get water from the water department.
Clerk will call the meeting to order. Jamie, we're going? Pledge of allegiance. Darrell, you want to work?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings 6 p.m. June 8th, 2009 and June 22nd, 2009. Work review sessions will be prior to the regular meeting and will start at 5 p.m. All of these meetings will be held at Town Hall unless otherwise posted. Weather observations for the month of April are posted in the front lobby of Town Hall. United States Census Bureau employees will be visiting every housing unit in every neighborhood between April and July of this year. They'll wear official ID badges. The approval of the minutes for the May 11, 2009 work session. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the select board minutes.
It's a work session.
A work session on the second?
It's 11.
Got it, so work session minutes.
Second?
I'll second it.
It's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the May 11, 2009 work session. Any discussion, comments? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of the May 11, 2009 minutes of work session are approved. I would like a motion to approve the minutes of the May 11 regular board meeting.
Second motion. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion or comments? There being none, those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The minutes of May 11, 2009 board meeting are approved. Agenda items.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move committee appointments, remove the segment for nonprofit committee to other business.
Okay. Anyone have any comments or suggestions or objections? All right, we'll move it to other business. Personnel appointments. I'd like to announce the appointment of a new highway department manager, Peter Permanik, who started with us on the 22nd of May. Peter, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Peter was the highway manager in Holderness, after which he left to join Pike Industries, and from Pike, he has come to us as our new highway department manager. And have you any comments, observations you'd like to make at this stage of the game?
I think I'm going to run the highway department in a positive direction. I will work well with the board as well as town administrator. I think it's a good match for everybody.
You were on the highway department in Plymouth for some time, weren't you?
I was on the Plymouth Highway Department for 8 years prior to me going to Holderness.
And you were at Holderness, what, 10?
11 years. I was road agent for 11 years. I was there about 11 and a half.
Well, again, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Peter?
They're coming.
Thank you.
Where am I? Okay. Correspondence. SAU 48 regarding tax exemption for Mount Prospect Beckett School. We have a letter from the members of the Plymouth Board, from the Mark Howard, Superintendent of Schools, to the board regarding the Mount Prospect Beckett School. A number of years ago, a representative of the Plymouth Board of Selectmen contacted this office regarding Mount Prospect Beckett Schools developing a site within the town of Plymouth. At that time, representatives of the Mount Prospect Beckett Schools sought property tax relief by offering services to both the Plymouth School District and the Pemmy-Baker Regional High School District. This office was never officially apprised of the formal agreement, but there was an understanding that costs associated with either district placing a student at Mount Prospect Beckett schools would be considered in any specific year relative to property tax payments. Attached, you'll find a one-month invoice totaling $4,243.46. This placement is expected to continue through the end of the school year for a total of $13,177.06. If the board would decide to grant tax relief to this organization for services rendered, please let this office know, as we will be responsible for any balances. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. It's Mark Howard.
We have no formal, as the letter says, there's no formal documentation.
This is evidently a commitment that was made by the Mount Prospect Beckett schools at the time.
And a past board.
They have property relief now?
Yes.
And is this the first time we've had a student in the school?
Yes.
Does anybody have any idea?
They pay, if
They pay us a lot more than that.
yeah, in lieu of taxes.
Than in lieu of tax.
Yeah.
They used to pay us, they used to have a pilot program, how they pay taxes, which was,
Their taxes exceed, what you say, they pay a lot more in taxes than this amount. So the agreement is that we would accept this as in lieu of taxes in any year that we send a student there. Or is that an understanding of
I
somebody?
think we're going to have to take this under
Yeah.
advisement.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we should.
Make a motion. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we seek legal counsel as to how we should proceed with the treatment of tuition in lieu of taxes.
Second.
Or do they pay taxes?
They pay taxes right now.
As a deduction.
This is 13,000 in lieu of taxes.
I think if we could just table it, maybe just table this.
We'll just table the whole thing under advisement.
We'll take it under advisement, then we'll go back and check in our records.
We'll get you the dollar amounts and what the ticket would be if you were to accept.
All right, so we'll table this until such time as we can figure out what tax amounts are.
Can't think of the number right offhand.
A motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, this is tabled until such time as we can get the... All right. Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District. The district sent a letter dated May 22nd. Dear board members, effective July 1, 2004, the annual fee for the intermunicipal septage agreement was increased to $150 per year. In order to be in compliance with RSA 485A:5-B, the district is offering an agreement for a five-year agreement term. The annual fee for the five-year term is $100 per year and is payable on an annual basis. In the first year, the fee is due with a signed agreement. Subsequent years will be billed the month of June. RSA 485A:5-B, municipal responsibility. Each municipality shall either provide or assure access to a Department of Environmental Services approved septic facility for its residents for a minimum of 5 years. Enclosed are the annual and 5-year septic agreements, each in duplicate. Please review, sign, and return one set of the agreements to this office. I will return one to your files after the Board of Commissioners has signed them. If you have any questions, sign Kevin Lincoln. The agreement is that we pay $100 a year in lieu of a fee of $150 a year.
With a commitment to 5 years.
With a commitment for 5 years. Seems like a no-brainer. The annual septic is $150. We won't sign that one. We'll sign the 5 years. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the 5-year agreement from the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District at $100 per year beginning in June of 2009? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we therefore will sign the... Do you want us to sign it today so you can pass this on? Is there one or two copies of each? Two
I
copies.
think there's 2 of each contract. Just make sure you're signing the $100 one.
Yeah, I'm signing the $100 one. That's the second one. A letter from Mr. James Maris. Dear Board, am I only unhappy time Warner customer? If not, I would suggest the board call a meeting with the Time Warner leadership and would ask you to consider inviting the subscribers to air their grievances. Also, I would be willing to serve on the committee that revisits the renewal of the cable franchise that expires in 2013. I'm Jim Damaris, 19 Broadway, Plymouth. Let's see, he has a letter attached. Please accept this letter. This was sent to Time Warner on the 14th of May by Mr. Damaris. Please accept this letter as one dissatisfied customer of Time Warner Cable. Allow me to outline a series of issues which I feel need to be addressed, clarified by your organization. A few years ago, a decision was made to eliminate all the main channels, 6, 8, 13, and that's MAINE, the state of, I guess, because of something called an area of dominance. 3 Vermont stations were added, 5, 13, and 22. I'm wondering how receiving news from Plattsburgh and Malone, New York satisfies our area of dominance as Maine is less than 2 hours east of us. Also, one of the channels, Channel 22, carries no local news but only the national news of ABC regular programming. Channel 8 out of Maine should be able to replace this channel. Number 2, last fall, Channel 38 out of Boston was summarily eliminated from programming. The explanation was something about needing more bandwidth. 2 weeks ago, Channel 4, a CBS affiliate, was removed because it provided duplicate programming. If that's the case, why not take off Channel 13 out of Burlington, Vermont, that covers the state of New York? What are the plans to replace these 2 lost channels as our monthly charges have not decreased? I am hopeful you will provide me with an explanation of these changes that, in my humble opinion, have not served the subscribers of the Plymouth area. Signed, Mr. James W. Grant. So that was his letter to Time Warner, and evidently he has not had a response, which is fairly consistent with our experience with Time Warner.
The letter that we voted on at the last meeting, Time Warner and
Yes.
MetroCast.
They're allowing us to go. Those 30 families up in the Texaco area are going to be allowed to go to MetroCast.
So part of the Time Warner franchise is going to be switched to MetroCast when they make the,
We
whenever.
might as well consider that we were never part of Time Warner's agreement to begin with. We never
Yeah.
received service.
Didn't they make an agreement originally to
Philadelphia did.
Delphia?
Time Warner got off the contract. They agreement. I can tell you that we are in the process of trying to have somebody physically come to the June 22nd Board of Selectmen's meeting from Time Warner. And if they respond saying that they are going to send someone, we'll televise it and put it on Channel 3 and Channel 20 so that everybody that receives Time Warner service in this area will be able to attend the meeting as much as this building will accommodate, because we're receiving a ton of complaints about Time Warner.
Have you had any response yet from Time Warner?
No,
How long ago did you make the request?
that was last week.
Have we asked to begin negotiations with them or attempted over the contract, the franchise agreement?
No, Jamie had come before the board and recommended that we start 3 years beforehand, because it took us 3 years to settle the last agreement. And if you remember, the time clock didn't start ticking until after the 3 years of negotiations.
So if they go past 2013 and do the same thing, it could end up being another...
2016 before we...
Is Jamie handy?
Yep.
Because he had a recommendation that we might want to look into, and that's Jamie. You had a recommendation for a law firm in Boston that specializes in cable issues.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend getting a lawyer for the negotiations that specializes in cable law. I know in the past we've used Donahue, Tucker, Shandella, and it's not saying that they're a bad firm. It's just their specialty is more in municipal law, right-of-way law. I would definitely recommend, there's a firm in Boston, I can't remember the full name, it's Brian Epstein, I think it is, or Peter Epstein. Epstein in Boston is highly recommended in this area for an attorney that deals with cable law. I would highly recommend that we look into getting Epstein or someone from his firm up here to help us with the negotiations, instead of just going with the usual town council. And definitely we want to start 2 or 3 years ahead of time, and I would think that probably the first step would be to get together a committee to sort of guide the renewal of the franchise agreement and work with the attorney also.
When exactly does this franchise agreement expire?
2013. So it's 10 years from when the... I would have to look at the franchise agreement. So I could give you an exact date, but it's 10 years from the date of signature by the select board, and that was in 2003 it was signed. So.
Now, MetroCast obviously is making
They're interested.
They're interested, obviously. They're willing to take care of a lot of Time Warner customers that are otherwise not taken care of. So my suggestion is that we start the ball rolling if we can. I don't know if a letter from an attorney would be appropriate, or we've asked to have a live body present. They haven't responded.
That's why I give them to the June 22nd deadline.
Okay. And then we proceed accordingly.
And we would contact the firm that Jamie's talking about.
If we hold negotiations and they don't show up, then
Well, I believe that there's a chance that if they don't respond by June 22nd, that it's a breach of their contract. They're not contacting us when we've asked them to.
so that could end the whole thing a lot quicker than anticipated.
We'll check with the attorney. Because we've tried corresponding with them and we're not getting anywhere. They did call last week with a survey.
Yeah, that was, you told me about that. That was sort of one of those off the top of the... All right.
I will say I've had pretty good luck with their local crew that's here in New Hampshire that deals with the technical side of operations. But dealing with something like this, you have to deal with their management side of operations. And it's always been hit or miss for me. Sometimes I get a response from them, sometimes I don't. So I'm going to try this week to get in touch with them and see if we can get a response. I believe their regional operations for the Northeast region, I think, is in Maine. Yes, it's in Maine. So I believe in Augusta, Maine.
Yeah, they've got a big service center up there, a technical service center.
Yeah, and that's where their operations for the Northeast area operate out of Maine. So.
Okay. So that we'll discuss this at the next meeting, depending on the response you get from...
It'll be the meeting after the next meeting. It's the second meeting
22nd of
June.
Right. Yeah, so 2 more meetings.
They've been invited to be at our June 22nd meeting, and we want somebody from management to come to that meeting, somebody that can make decisions.
Okay. Now, so we won't get involved in the law firm who we're going to use until after we find out
After the 22nd.
whether they'll come to the office. Okay.
And just something to add while we're talking about MetroCast coming in and serving the Texas Hill area, I just want to make it clear that those subscribers on MetroCast will not be able to see our local access channels through MetroCast because they're on an entirely different cable system. There are some options that we might be able to work out. We could try talking with Bristol TV to see if we can pay them a fee to put our meetings on their channel, which they would get. Those subscribers would get Bristol's channel, I'm pretty sure. Or as long as they're on a cable system, they would have presumably some sort of broadband internet access. So we might start looking at ways to deliver video over the internet as well, and that might be another way to serve those folks out there. But they won't be able to see our channels as they exist now.
Have we gone ahead with the MetroCast connection to the 31 subscribers, or is that
It's
something
not we
don't have anything to do with?
No, it's between us private citizens and MetroCast.
And essentially, the way I understand it, at least the way it was being discussed before, was that it would be an extension of Bridgewater's. So those residents, even though they're residents of Plymouth, would be on Bridgewater's franchise agreement. So.
Now, what about MetroCast? When are we going to approach them to come in and start?
After we find out how the costs work.
Yeah, we still have to wait
After the 22nd.
We have to seek legal advice from counsel. Because it might not be in good faith to be negotiating with another company while we're in the contract with Time Warner.
Well,
You have a right to listen to what MetroCast wants to come in and say to each other.
I don't know.
But
We're not negotiating, but we want to have somebody lay out what their program would be, and that's, we've got to do that before the end of the agreement anyway, so sooner the better. All right, so we'll await, see what they do on the 22nd, and then go from there. So we'll be talking to you again.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can get in touch with them and try to get them in here.
All right. Thank you, sir.
In the meantime, on Mr. Desmarais' letter, can that be put in a folder as the first one to volunteer for a committee?
And anybody else that wants to send in a letter to be on that committee?
I would definitely encourage
Letter of
the
intent.
past PB Cam committee members to volunteer.
All right. Visitors, we have none? Or do we?
No.
No? Okay. Land use permits? None? Moving right along. Chairman's comments. We have just been advised by Pike Industries that they have moved the resurfacing project for Main Street up to the 13th of July from the 1st of June. This again is a tentative date. The time in which it will be done will be dependent on the weather once they start. Paul advised Main Street Plymouth, Paula Twombly, today, right after we heard from the contractor, that the project is now moved to 3 days in July. This is a decision between involving both the contractor and DOT. Beyond that, we really don't have much to say about it other than we'll wait and see how the thing goes in mid-July.
As soon as we find out when there's going to be a contractors meeting
Yeah, the contract.
prior to those dates, usually a week before, week and a half before.
Yeah.
We do have a call list that we'll contact everybody
Yeah, well,
on Main Street to attend that meeting.
tomorrow there's a meeting of the downtown merchants at, I think, 7 o'clock?
7:30.
7:30.
And there's already been a group email sent out by
Bringing them up to date.
Paula did send out a group email this afternoon,
To all of the,
merchants,
yeah.
as accurate as that group email is by Main Street. They come from us.
Well, she's just passing on what we gave her, so.
Exactly.
All right, purchase order approvals. We have 3 purchase orders. Oh, here. Let's see. Yeah, we'll start with the, we have a purchase order of Motorola from the police department for $3,301.85 worth of radio equipment, service agreements, charger, remote speaker microphones, batteries, etc. The purchase order is 2 Motorola shipped to Ossipee Mountain Electronics, 832 Whittier Highway, Moultonboro, New Hampshire. Mr. LaFage, would you like to speak to that?
What this radio is, this would be a spare radio for the police department. Everybody's got their radios issued now. We'd like to purchase 1 a year as a spare. Life expectancy for these radios are about 7 years is what we're told by Motorola, so we like to keep on it. And also, if we have a radio that happens to go down or needs to get reprogrammed or whatnot, we have spares in the PD so people can use them. That's basically what it's for. The first 3 lines are just for that radio. The next line after that is the individual charger for that radio. The remote speaker microphone, that's the shoulder mic that you see all the officers wearing. That's what that is. The batteries, that is for all our current radios we have now, needs some new batteries. That's what that's for. And the multi-charger unit, what that is what we call a gang charger. There are 5 radios that can plug into this charger, but what this specific charger does with the batteries that we just purchased, it reconditions the batteries, so it greatly expands the life of the batteries. What happens sometimes when you use a battery and you don't fully drain it down, it gets a memory that it only works to that point. What this charger does is it drains the battery completely and recharges it fully for you. So it extends the life of the batteries. The reason why everything's lumped together onto one purchase order was I was told by Ospey Mount Electronics is that we get the radio at state bid price. And if we buy the accessories with the purchase of the radio, we get all of those at state bid price. Otherwise, we have to pay retail for the rest of it. So it saves us 20% on the total of everything. So I figured it was just smarter to put it all in one purchase order and save a big chunk of money.
So you're talking
600.
Yeah. Yep.
800. All right.
So this gives us a total, this is just like an extra?
This is one extra radio to include, one extra radio to include its individual charger and microphone, 5 individual batteries for the other radios we already have, and then this multi-charger unit.
So when you said you guys want to, every year you're trying to redo one?
Correct.
That would just be the first couple lines,
That would be the first
3 lines?
Actually, what we like to do
The
too is
microphone, too.
the microphone, and its individual charger.
That multi-unit.
Because sometimes you'll have a charger that'll go bad, and then we'll have to use the charger, a new charger in replace of that.
And you replace all the batteries every year.
Sometimes we've had good luck with batteries lately. I don't recall purchasing any batteries last year. I can't say for sure, but
All right. Need a motion to approve this? Yes. I'd like a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the purchase order for $3,301.89 for radio equipment and accessories to Motorola Inc. through Ossipee Mountain Electronics. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
thank you very much.
And the next one is, well, we might as well put Peter through his paces. The Highway Department, miscellaneous work on a 2003 Ford F-450 Super dump truck.
You can't put Peter through the paces on that and just start it today.
Why not?
That's a bill that I came across on work that was already done to our F-450.
Oh, it's already been done.
And because it was over $2,000, I had to put it in the form of a purchase order.
$2,888.99. Given there's not much to discuss, give a motion to approve.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded to approve the purchase order for $2,888.99 to Meredith Ford for miscellaneous work on a 2003 Ford 450 dump truck. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. And the final, Jamie? We have a purchase order for $6,089 to Access AV in Concord for 2 Shure mic mixers, 2 Shure panels for mixers, 14 Shure gooseneck table microphones, and 1 Whirlwind cable snake for for mics. So, you want to tell us what this is all about?
Yes, absolutely. This is all audio equipment for recording and cable casting here at Town Hall. Currently, we have 4 overhead mics that we're using to record the meetings. And we're still getting complaints about audio. Every time we've bought new equipment, it's gotten better, but really it's time to invest the money and do it right and get it done. And the only way to do that, the problems that we're having is, first of all, earlier at the beginning of the meeting, I shut off the AC because it's just too loud. That AC kicks on and you have a hard time hearing anyone here, even with the microphones. And the only way to solve that is to put individual microphones in front of everyone at the table. That's also going to solve the problems, like if you have certain people sitting at the table who aren't speaking as loud as others, or perhaps are speaking a little too loud. Currently, the only way we can adjust levels is to adjust one microphone that gets an area of people. So you're turning down everyone else with that one person. This way, everyone has a microphone in front of them. Also, with every microphone that you have open, as in turned up, you're multiplying the ambient noise of the room. So any noises in the room, every microphone is picking up that noise. So every microphone you have open is going to pick that up. And where these are wide area mics picking up a whole area under them, that's a problem because you're getting a lot of noise, which makes it hard to hear. So they're better than the solution before, which is better than the solution before, but this is really the right way to do it. I could have gone with a mixer that just takes the microphones in and you adjust each mic level manually. The problem is when you have a board like the planning board has 12, potentially 12 members, you're going to have 12 microphones, and the person in there doing video production is already busy trying to adjust 12 microphones plus 2 overheads to get the audience. Is just way too much to handle at once and do the video production. And really, the correct way to do that anyway for meetings is to use an auto mic mixer. And what that is that's a mixer that you have every microphone plugged in, and it automatically shuts that microphone off unless someone's speaking. So as soon as someone starts speaking, then the microphone goes live. And the mixer has individual adjustments for each microphone, but it has sort of a dummy light, I like to call it, on it that tells you if the level is okay. If it's too loud, you'll know which microphone immediately to turn down because there's a light there that tells you that it's too loud. If it's too soft, again, you'll have a light that will indicate that it's not loud enough and you need to turn that one up. So it's pretty much automatic. You don't have to touch it once it's set. The microphones also have buttons on them, mute buttons. So if you have a meeting going on and perhaps there are a couple of members that want to have a side conversation about the business without sort of interrupting the meeting, right now we catch everything with these. This way, the person sitting at a microphone will be able to hold the button and it'll stay mute as long as they're holding that button. And that way, on the DVD and the cable cast, you won't pick up those side conversations as long as people remember to hit that button. And as soon as they let go, then the mic is live again. But again, it won't turn on unless they're actually speaking. So that way, you only have microphones on when the people in front of them are speaking. And the mixer is made to bring the levels down automatically so that the peak overall sound stays at the same level. So the more microphones you have open, the louder that peak gets unless you bring the peak down. So this mixer just takes care of it manually. So it's a more expensive solution than buying a big manual mixer and individual mics, but it's really the best way to do it. And that will take care of our problems with making sure that each individual person is heard, making sure that the noise doesn't interfere with the meeting, and then we'll be able to keep the AC on, especially in the summer months. We don't want to turn that off when we have lots of people in here and a meeting going on.
This will be a fixed system, it won't leave the building?
Right, it will be a fixed system, and the benefit to this too is it's modular. The reason we have 2 mixers is because they only come in 8-channel banks. Well, they make them in 4-channel too, but 8 is the biggest you can get. And we need 16 channels to make this work. But you link them together. So if for some reason in the future we need more microphones and we decide, well, we really need up to 24 microphones plugged in at once, we just buy one more of those 8-channel mixers and throw it in. So we're not spending, another potentially $4,000 to replace the whole mixer. We're just buying one more 8-channel bank and putting that in there.
Okay. You say this is funded from budgets in there. The purchase is made from funds budgeted in the PBCAM budget line. What's the source of the funds? Is that come from the franchise?
Most of the funding for PBCAM comes from franchise fees. There is a little bit now coming from tax revenues.
Generally, this is covered from the franchise fee.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
The only thing that I have is, and I think he answered it, is the reason that you went to the overhead mic is because of the noise of shuffling papers
Right.
and all that. Nobody could ever hear what they were talking about. So
Yeah.
if that eliminates that problem, then
These are the little mics that were... Where the devil did I see those?
Oh, we still use the mics that we had before. These ones that were hanging overhead were tabletop boundary mics that, again, they catch a wide area of sound, and they sit on the table. And again,
They
as
pick
John
up
said,
all
it was
the ambient
shuffling the papers. If anyone banged the table, it would, more than these mics would pick it up. I mean, the microphone would actually get jostled, or they were constantly falling off the table or getting covered up by large plants, especially at planning board and zoning board meetings. And there are ways of sort of propping them up so that you can get beyond that, but really it was more of a nuisance, so we went with the overhead mics. But these would be tabletop gooseneck mics that have a base, but they're on a little
So
stand.
they look like the thing you see on the top of the podium.
Yeah, only much smaller. It's not going to be really intrusive. It's going to probably be, the stem on it is probably about that thick. So it's not very thick. It may be as thick as a pencil. And the microphone itself is probably, it's not much wider than a pencil.
They won't pick up the ambient noise, but how close do you have to be to them to be heard?
You don't have to be very close at all. You don't have to lean into them or anything. They can be adjusted so that you can sit back where you normally sit, and they can be maybe a foot or so in front of you, and they'd still pick you up fine. And they're pointed up so that they'll probably still pick up some of the rustling of the papers. I can't guarantee that they won't, but a lot less than even these microphones do.
Anybody have any questions? A motion to approve the purchase order for $6,089 worth of microphones, mixers, etc.
So moved.
Second. Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to just comment on, we only have time for Jamie's up here, that exceptional job they did with the coverage of the Memorial Day Parade out here. It was good. He was able to put it out on 2 stations live, and I think that was really, really nice. It's a lot of work.
Thank you.
You can see all the layout that was involved there, so I'd just like to take this time to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Memorial Day went off like clockwork, including we had the helicopter. It was a beautiful day. We probably had the bigger crowds I've ever seen out there.
It was one of the bigger crowds.
And on that note, a couple of seniors approached me about our external, the speaker sound, so I'm sure that's something we probably shouldn't own because we do it so rarely, but maybe we want to look into more beefed up, a wider angle of sound in the future.
Well, we can probably afford an inexpensive PA system. I know we don't use it very much, but we can probably get one where the return on investment is still pretty good. I know there are some
coming out
portable
of that
kits.
podium.
Yeah, that was yeah, and we borrowed that from the library, and it's really not made for an outdoor setting like that, which is a problem. But we could probably have something, and then that way it could be used for more than just town hall. We might be able to, PB Cam could use it. It might be something that we could loan out to people to use as well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
Comments? All right, we have a motion been made and seconded to approve purchase order for $6,089 worth of microphones, etc. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The purchase order is approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Oh, and actually, something I would just like to mention as an aside, the snake that is sending the microphones, the snake cable, I did make sure to get one that has returns, so if we did decide to use the PA system again, for people sitting here in the audience, we could send the signal back. And now that everyone has an individual microphone, we wouldn't have to worry about feedback as long as we position the speakers correctly. So, it's something to consider also.
Thanks, Jim. Committee reports, which I neglected to get into in the last meeting. I think I announced them and then just kept right on going. So, Valerie?
I have a report from the last school board meeting where John Francis presented, he's their facilities manager, presented an overview of improvements and repair work to be done at the elementary school over the next 2 years, which he described as having a 15 to 20-year benefit to the school. The cost of this, he said the total cost would be $3.4 million, 60% of which would be covered by the state pending legislation for building aid, which would leave the town with a $1.3 million expense for this project, which I'm sure we'll be hearing more about in the next months and years. But it included, it was significant. It was building security, heating and ventilation upgrades, some of it that they're proposing to do in conjunction with the ceiling or the roof repair, phone and PA system, fire alarm system, sprinkler systems, multi-purpose room and gym floors, hallway ceilings and floors, and just on and on. It was a very extensive project that he described.
What period of time are they talking about doing that over?
He's starting next year.
Next year's budget.
Next year's budget. This is just, it was a preliminary overview to the school board for what they're hoping to accomplish over a
Will
two-year
this
period.
be bonded or expensed?
The town will have a cost of $1.3 million.
Right.
Expensed.
I'm sure we'll have to put it in the form of a bond.
Yeah.
That would be the town's portion.
Okay. Anything else?
That was all I had.
Carol?
I went to a library building committee meeting last week, and to the beginning of their fundraising efforts. They're still in the planning stages, but I'm really looking forward to substantial private outlay. So, then I have an Energy Commission meeting coming up in June.
Okay. You want to talk about the local government thing, or should I?
It's all you.
John?
I am happy to report that we set a new record for the planning board as far as the length of time that we had.
What was that? 15 minutes? Or?
No, it was probably maybe 3/4 an hour for most of it. So, other than that, there was not too much fun.
Which?
Nothing to report.
I attended the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District meeting last, well, I've attended two of them since we had the discussion. One, I put a request in for I formally asked the board if they would approve a non-metered water source at the amphitheater. And they said they'd take it under advisement. I think that one of the comments made by one of the commissioners was that it might be something they want to try, see how much water we're going to use. But this is it'll be an unmetered faucet that they can connect someplace pretty close to Green Street. And then the last meeting they had, it was the most unusual thing I've ever sat through, but it's something that's necessary. They did a line-by-line 3-hour review of their 60% plan for the new sewer district. And tonight, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it, but they're going to do the same thing for the 90% completed plans. But let me tell you, those three commissioners get right down up to their fingernails in this thing. It's almost page by page. This is about a $6+ million project. But my guess is they're going to be ready to go. They work with Wright Pierce, which is their engineering firm. And they're probably going to be ready to go to contract on this stuff in another 60 days or less. And Dick Flanders said that they have now moved to I think it was pretty far up the list. It went third or fourth for the stimulus money, which is a 50% forgivable loan. So they're placed. They started this project because they knew the stimulus money was going to require shovel ready, and they're going to be shovel ready. So they may get the biggest chunk of the stimulus money of anybody in town. In addition, I don't know if I talked about this. I think I did at the last board meeting, but we had the first meeting of the fire station committee. What I tried to impress on the committee was that we have to get the site issues resolved pretty quick. That's first on the list. We made Casino Claxton the chair, Tommy Morrison as vice chair. As I understand it, they're in the process of surveying one of the sites. and reviewing some of the others. The sites that they're talking about are, there's one on Reservoir Road that's been reviewed by the group, and the Hitchner property off of Highland. The land behind the police station, which is the town owns, and it's close to 7 acres. And the fourth one that came up at the meeting was the possibility of buying properties on Langdon Street behind the present firehouse. And we're going to do a look at that, but it just seems to me that you'd never be able to get that resolved in time to get a warrant article next March, because you're talking 3 or 4 pieces of property you've got to negotiate. First of all, if they want to be, there's one of them evidently for sale, but the others are not. They're all college rentals, so the price is not going to go down the way other property has. And you'd have to negotiate the purchase, hopefully of all 4 of them, and then the demolition and site work would probably take you into next year. But we should have a meeting in the next couple of weeks. Casino's got to call it when he gets some of the information in hand. And hopefully we can resolve the site where this thing's going to go pretty quickly within the next month or so. After that, it should flow. It should go reasonably fast, because then you have to get a design-build contractor. You have to design the station to the site. The chief says he's got a number of potential designs. I guess they've been playing around with them for years. So, I would hope we can get the site issue resolved in June and then move on. At what point do we have to be ready to draw the warrant articles? January? So we've got, we have to get the site resolved, and then the contracts in place, and site work contracts and construction and design and budget. So I think we're probably on track. And we're just awaiting the chief to call the next meeting. Daryl and I attended the local government 2 seminars at the Loon Local Government Center. And I thought they were pretty good. They got into all aspects of how your local government should be run. Board of Selectmen, the various and sundry committees that have to be set up. There was a very good, I thought it was a pretty good synopsis, and we got a book out of it that lays out just about everything you can imagine as it relates to your local government, as it relates to running a town for the Board of Selectmen. I don't know, what do you think of it?
Yeah, it was just a public review of the 2009 Know Your Territory. Know Your Territory. So it's a book we had on file already downstairs. Do we have the latest version?
Yep.
2009. Yeah, so it's just a read-through of that. They did a good job.
We did it in 2 sessions. One was, they had a couple of attorneys, well, they were all attorneys, I guess, which made it real interesting. And there's, when you get into a session like that, you listen to the people who attend, and you can appreciate that we're not the only town that has issues. All right. Under other business, the non-profit committee discussion. I guess I'd like to have the board comment on John Kelly first. We have names of a half a dozen people who volunteered to be on the nonprofit committee. And it's been discussed, and we feel that there should be an opportunity for citizens in town to apply to this committee, and we can review the applications and decide who we're going to put on. I don't know how big the committee, what you see the committee as in size.
The size is okay. The only thing I'm thinking is that we should go back to square one and have everybody write a letter, or at least indicate to us if they want to be on the committee or not.
Right.
And I think those 6 that have been selected prior to having the public available to volunteer themselves, I think they should be treated just like everybody else. I think they should send in a letter and then have the board decide as to who should be on that committee. And then at least if the public doesn't want to participate, then they will have to live with whomever wants to volunteer for it. But they will at least have the chance of having a say in the local government, and not have us tell them who we are going to pick to represent them for nonprofit organizations.
How do you see this? What do you see the committee's primary function?
I feel that the primary function is, as we discussed last year, to make some type of form up to and indicating a series of standard questions and wishes of the various committees, of the various nonprofit people, and then that should go to the they should be advisory type of committee, and once they pass that out to the nonprofit organization, they should indicate what they want. Then that should go to the budget committee, and ultimately will go to the Board of Selectmen. And then after that, there should be a consensus as far as we are concerned, and then it goes to town meeting. And there's always a chance that a taxpayer or a citizen would revise it at that point.
So you see this, the major change in that would be that their recommendations go to the budget committee rather than to the Board of Selectmen.
I think there should be a filtering element there going to the budget committee, and ultimately that will go to the selectmen. But there'll be a lot of the chaff sifted out before we have to get it, and it might eliminate some type of discussion at an open selectmen's meeting.
What do you see as the filter? The committee?
No, the filtering would be through the budget committee.
Okay.
The actual committee or nonprofit committee would be merely a committee that would get a lot of the information and indicate and be able to look at it and make sure all of the information is correct and so forth.
So you would see they would make they would make recommendations to the budget committee, and the budget committee would filter it, put it in the budget.
Right.
We could. So the nonprofits would then go before the budget committee rather than the selectmen as they have in the past.
Unless we asked them individually if we had a question that maybe the budget committee couldn't answer, we might want to draw them up here and see why they want a certain amount of money.
Yeah. If the budget committee, when they finish their work, that's when the nonprofits would have an opportunity to come in
And
and
as
talk
I
to
say,
them.
it would filter out a lot of the, some of the items that have gone on in the last 2 or 3 years of having a budget meeting coming right before us in an open meeting and having some maybe unpleasant situations come up, and that should all be filtered out before it came to us.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think this board, I think we'd be the court of last request.
Right.
And Darrell, you were in favor of putting this thing through the budget committee.
Right, we're a policy level group. The budget committee is assisting us as a policy level group, so the more we can keep this on a policy level, the better. We're intending to present something to town meeting. Town meeting is what has authority over the spending or not, and so to get involved in anything but presenting the most vetted package, I think is just confuses the process.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's important that we open it up to anybody that's out there that wants to take the opportunity. I think the committee that is formed, we have had problem over the years with not having adequate form that has the right information on it. So I think that committee, whoever it might be, could work on that and put a good one together. I know Janet last year had some good ones that came from some other towns that seemed to have the information we were looking for. So, and I do like the idea of running it through the budget committee. It's a good idea.
So this would be a bottom-up. We just ask people who are interested to submit a letter to the Board of Selectmen.
I assume that you would have to have a letter. I'm not totally in favor of somebody having to write a letter.
Yeah.
I think as long as they would indicate that they were. And,
you can have people call anyone of the Board of Selectmen and volunteer.
well, we probably should pass it through the town administrator and have them.
We'll just request,
put it in.
excuse me, we just request a one-sentence letter of intent.
Yeah.
I'll contact the current committee, because they might not hear about this.
One of the things I'm concerned about, though, is the size. This thing could go so far out of
Well,
hand.
that'll be determined after we see how many.
Yeah.
Because the expression is a horse is a camel is a horse designed by a committee.
I'll
The
contact
bigger
the current
committee, the more-
members
Okay.
so that they know that they have to also submit a letter of intent.
It should be smaller than the budget committee, I think.
I have
Yeah.
no. I have no.
You don't have them to dominate over there.
Right.
How big's the budget committee?
Fine.
Six.
So it should be 3.
Okay. Well, I don't know, 3. To get a halfway decent cross-section, I think we're going to need more than 3 people. That's something
Well,
we
if the planning board can have 12 floating around, and they seem to work reasonably well, then I would think that you could have more than 3, but I think your 6 would probably be the maximum that you'd want. 6 of somebody.
If you're outnumbering the body that you're making recommendations to, that kind of sends the wrong message of here comes the...
Well, we can increase the size of the budget committee.
Sure.
If you went, I agree with Darrell and me, Mr. Chairman. If you're going to go with 6, then I would recommend that you go with the intent of them having a chairperson or a chair and a co-chair, and
Make a
those 2 people
presentation.
would come
Yeah.
before the budget
Yeah.
committee,
Yeah.
so that we don't have a room where the advisory group does outnumber.
Yeah, I think you need more than 3, but not more than 5 or 6. You just need an opportunity to get a broader spectrum. Valerie?
I-
No comment?
No comment on this, no further comment.
Okay, so you'll contact the people that have indicated their interest, and then,
No, I'll contact the current committee to submit letters of interest, letters of intent.
well, is there a current committee? That's my question.
I'll contact last year's committee,
Okay.
let them know that if they wanted to continue to be on the committee, they also need to,
And
So-
then this is the request for,
right,
Yep.
so that there won't be any assumption on anybody's part. So anybody that wants to be on a non-profit committee will have to submit a letter of intent.
And those who have verbally indicated that they're interested based on the list that Charlie has.
Right, we'll contact those also. Right, the names that we already have and last year's committee.
Plus, everybody knew that was.
and an
Well,
open-
anybody new,
This is the
we'll
open
accept
request to the
anybody new.
public. This is a formal open
Yep.
request to the public.
That's it, right now.
Yep.
We're asking anybody out there that's viewing this segment,
Right, call,
right, call, if they call, we'll still ask them to put a one-sentence letter of intent, so you'll actually have
can we get your home number on the screen now?
one on the bottom.
All right. Do we have any public comment?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just had one other thing that I'd like to put on the other business.
Yep.
I gave you a letter of correspondence regarding the building on Highland Street being taken down.
Oh, yes. Excuse me just a second here. We have a letter from the owner of 139 Highland Street to Brian Murphy, the building inspector. The background of this is that the town sent basically the fire department inspected this building on 137 Highland, which is the old country store up on the top of the hill near the high school. And they declared that it was unsafe. They were afraid the facade was not secure and could collapse and land in the middle of Highland Street, among other things. There was a lot of grass around the building that could become a fire hazard. So Brian Murphy sent a letter to the owners, or the owner, I think who lives in Berlin, advising them that the building had been condemned and that they should remove it. They had 45 days from the receipt of the letter, which was would be July 1 of this year. So there's a letter sent back to Brian from Mr. Panagotis Galanis, who's the owner. This letter is in response to your letter received from the Town of Plymouth Office of Select Board. My plan for the building on 137 Highland Street in Plymouth is to tear it down. I have been in touch with demolition companies in the area. The structure and lot demolition and subsequent refill to the area should be accomplished within 45 days. All vegetation will also be cleaned up within this time. So he has agreed to remove the building. And as I said, it should be around the 1st of July, it should be completed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
that's just that building, it doesn't have anything to do with the trail.
No.
Just the building.
Just the building.
To keep them, they'll be in compliance if they take the building.
Yeah, okay.
So they have agreed to do so, and probably see some activity up there in the next couple of weeks. All right, public comment. Yes, sir.
Daniel Macera, Plymouth Sports and Trades Footwear. A couple of hours ago, I received a notice about the rescheduling of the project. I want to let you know that if they do it in mid-July, it's a hard shot to the business community there. I urge the town of Plymouth to talk to the OT or PI to move those dates. It's terrible. They say 3 days, but we don't know if it's going to rain or too cold or too hot, and that project is going to take more time. I remember when DOT was here for the project of the bridge and the runoff, they were very open to suggestions and ideas. I don't think that if we tell them that it's the height of the summer season for us, they should reschedule. June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd wasn't very good, but was a lot better than this day. July and August, at least for my business, are the height of the season. 70% of my sales come from Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, 15% come from the college, and 15% from the town of Plymouth. Saying that, if we are going to have, it's mainly a perception issue, we are going to have a major problem. The other thing is, I think we need to try to move those dates. It's like if the town of Plymouth decide to close the entrance to Tenny Mountain ski area the day after Christmas Day. They're going to kill them. This will be something similar. July and August for most of the business, not all, are high season. Restaurants, sporting shops, you name it. I would like to see if the town can do something, talk to, I don't know if it's a DOT decision or a SPIKE decision, but need to be moved. They have from April to July 4th is when the summer season starts. I don't know why these people don't think a little better. You know, we are, like it or not, a destination area. We are a tourist area, and we need to consider that. And I urge you to try to talk to these people, see if they can reschedule or move it back to the original. June always is going to be better than July or August, no question. And that is, I received the information 2 hours ago, but it was a problem with the emails. All the merchants didn't get it. That's why they only one here. But if it's possible to do something, next meeting for the select board, probably you're going to have a bunch of merchants here present to make sure that something has to be done. The other issue that is unrelated to Time Warner. In the last week, I attended 2 different meetings for unrelated business, and Time Warner came to the table. One was with, I use a telecommunication broker for my needs in my business. And talking about the problem with the cable, the loss of channels, and poor reception, and they don't never give you credit for the service they are not providing. And another meeting I have with a lawyer that is specialized apparently in telecommunication, they told me if the town has a lot of complaints from users, the Attorney General should be notified. If the Attorney General gets involved, many things can change. When you have a contract, yes, they have the monopoly. There's not much we can do. But if the state gets involved, maybe some of those details can be solved. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I have no idea. We were just advised today or yesterday of this change.
Wait a second, it's mid-afternoon.
Mid-afternoon today. And I have no idea what the reasoning was. I can only do some conjecture, but you know, the contractor, I'm sure, was concerned because of all the activity over the June resurfacing. And we were in a primary slot. We were like the second project of the season. I think, Peter, when did they open up the hot top facilities? 25th or?
Usually around April 25th, May.
When did Pike start his?
I'm not sure. I know most of the resurfacing started in the beginning of May.
So we were right on top of the list as one of the prime projects. And the only thing I can assume is that because of the activity that was going on over the June 1st resurfacing, and the number of inquiries we had to make to DOT and the contractor as a result of questions that were brought up, that they just moved us out in the schedule. And I don't know what we can do to change that. It's unfortunate because I think we had a primary slot that we lost because of the issues that were brought up about this project. As for Time Warner, we've attempted to deal with them and have had very little luck. I think we're coming to a point where we've given them basically an ultimatum to send a live body in here who can deal with us by the 22nd. If that doesn't happen, then we've got options that we're going to start to exercise to put some pressure on. What are your comments on Time Warner?
I have nothing to add other than what we talked about earlier.
So I think the Time Warner is, that's still on a track that we can deal with because it's a 3-year lead time. As Jamie said, you don't want to wait until the last 6 months or a year because you get yourself in some disadvantages. And now that we have MetroCast talking about installing service to 31 Plymouth customers with the permission of Time Warner, I think we may take a different view of Time Warner and MetroCast. But that's something that we've got a lot of time to deal with.
I think this point might be valid, that part of an argument that you might take to the Attorney General is that we have 31 households that had to go outside of the town for service. There's been somewhat of a breach of contract, if you look at it that way, so there has been, they did not act in good faith, even with the existing contract.
And you said that you've had numerous complaints from other people in town, too, about the service. Is that
Constantly.
constantly?
Everywhere.
So, I mean, that, I think the idea of taking it to the Attorney General and just raising a flag is not a bad idea.
Unfortunately, Bill, comments come here to the town hall, people are venting their frustrations, and we don't control any of it. A lot of them fall in the category of a civil suit between the individual owner and Time Warner. And that's the problem that Jamie and I are constantly facing. We can't even call Time Warner and say, this individual on such and such a street is having a problem with your service. They won't even entertain a call like that. It's between the individual versus the big corporation, Time Warner, and the town's not in that equation at all outside of the contract that we have. But we can't fix an individual's problem.
It might be really worthwhile, since people are contacting Town Hall, encourage people to email with the same subject header, so Time
We need
Warner.
to start collecting
and just
letters,
amass them.
correspondence, like the one that we received from Mr. Bismaris.
Yeah, you can just hand them over. That's
The more
part-
of those that we can receive from the townspeople,
Yeah, if you want to encourage people to.
Yeah, I think that's something that
because we can represent
Good
the town
idea.
as a group, we can't represent the town as an individual.
people email town administrator. What's your email address?
People can email the town hall at plymouth-nh.org.
You know what?
But if we have the same subject header, then everyone, they can be grouped very easily. For
Time Warner service.
Time Warner service.
Time Warner service.
Yeah.
And we get enough of that. Plus the fact, I think, as we get more into the contract negotiations, our leverage is going to increase. And the fact that Time Warner was not interested in meeting their obligation to the 31 customers is a fair indication that they're not going to be in a strong position if they don't start to deal with the town.
It would be nice to have a paper trail documenting the different problems, because in all honesty, some of the things that are being described to me over the telephone, I can't even begin to understand because I do not have the service.
Yeah.
If we had it in writing, we'd be able to present those issues.
Well, how much were they going to charge to put that line in back when they first got the contract?
This is before Time Warner. Everybody that
Yeah,
has bought out the
okay.
previous contracts,
Yeah.
it was going to cost $2,700 to put that service in that area.
For the 31 contract?
2,700?
$2,700. The cost right now is up to $89,000.
89,000. So they're obviously not interested in providing the service.
That's what they're quoting as a cost.
Yeah,
MetroCast is going to do it for free.
yeah, they're obviously not interested in providing the service, so and to the point where they're prepared to allow MetroCast to come into their franchise area and provide the MetroCast service. So it's an attitudinal problem that we'll take under consideration when we get into these negotiations. Anyone else have any? Frank? Nothing? Did I answer your question on the project?
No, I know you have your hands tied, but, you know, you can make yourself heard with DOT. I think DOT at the end is that they want to go, okay.
The thing to remember too is the DOT owns Main Street. It's their road, not ours.
Yeah.
So when they want to fix their road, they'll fix it.
I'm not against the fixing, actually, I think it's a good improvement, but timing is everything.
Well, all right, do we have any non-public issues? So there being no non-public session, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any discussion on that? No?
Not tonight.
We are adjourned at 7:20.